Hey guys, this is Goku, and on this channel we talk about poker and ideas that can improve your life. Today we're gonna play another GTO trainer session. This is a series where we play GTO spots, and today we're playing the MP2 Open versus Big Blind Call, which is a tournament spot played on 50 big blind stacks. Let's jump right into it. For the first hand we've got King Jack off, and the board is 6 King 8 with 2 hearts. I think this is a spot where we bet 2. Yeah, the solver bets 2 here 80% of the time. That's the ideal action. The villain checks, and now there's a jack on the turn. I think this is a spot where we surely bet, but how much do we bet? Do we bet 3/4 pot or do we overbet? I think we're going to overbet here. Yeah, this is the correct play. The solver overbets here 95% of the time, so that's great. The villain calls, and we have a 5 of clubs on the river, so I think we should just be shoving here. Yeah, the solver shoves here 99.8% of the time, and the villain calls with smaller 2 pairs, so that's nice. 4-5 suited on an 8 King 5. We're gonna bet 2 here. That's the ideal action, played 97% of the time. Villain calls. We've got a 7 of diamonds on the turn. Now do we bet here? Or do we check? I think we are leaning towards checking. But maybe this should be a bet. I'm gonna try and check. Yeah, it should actually be a check always. So good. Deuce of clubs on the river. And do we have enough of equity to check behind here, or should we bet? I think we're checking behind here with 4-5. Yeah, we are. And we split the pot with another pair of 5s. 3-4 of clubs on a 10-7 ace. I think we bet 2 here. Or bet 5. Villain calls. 9 of clubs on the turn. I think we're giving up on this hand here. Let's check. Yeah, the solver actually likes continuing. I'm betting 7 here, 88% of the time. Checking is small EV loss, but solver actually doesn't like checking here on the 9 of clubs. So in a spot like that, we should continue bluffing with our 3-4, which makes sense. Now that the villain overbets the pot on the river, and we're just gonna fold. Okay, we're not gonna know what happens here because we chose a really rare play, so the solver didn't calculate the EV for the rest of the tree. Now we have pocket deuces on 5-5-6. I think we're betting 2 here. Yeah, and the villain folds. King Jack off on a 7-6-9 with 2 spades. I think this might be a check. Or let's bet 2. Okay, this is actually a check. Check's the ideal play, but we can see the solver is playing check 37% of the time, playing bet 2 38.6% of the time. So that's fine. We have a deuce of clubs on the turn. I think we check it back here. We do. And king of spades on the turn, on the river. The villain overbets the pot, and of course we have to call here with king jack. And surprisingly, the solver actually folds here 30% of the time. Interesting. Calling is of course fine. And we can see it's a fine play, but and the solver plays it actually more often, 71% of the time. But I'm surprised to see the solver folding here almost a third of the time. But that must make sense. Jack queen off on a 10-7 deuce with 2 diamonds. I think it's a bet 2 or a bet 5. I think we need to work on our bet 5s. We don't do that often enough, I think. I mostly just bet a third of the pot on the river, on the turn, on the flop. And now the villain leads for a third of the pot, we're just gonna call, as we should. And there's another 8 on the river. And I think we have to bet at this. But bet how much? 2/3 of the pot, I think, is the right play. Or is it an overbet? I'm gonna bet 2/3 here. And actually the solver prefers overbetting and does that 88% of the time. Betting 3/4 is fine EV-wise, but just 4% of the strategy. So we should remember a spot like that for the future. And the villain calls with a pair of 10s, so. Pocket kings on queen ace ace. I think we bet 2 here. Yeah, the villain calls. Yep. A third ace on the turn. I think means we're gonna continue betting. We're gonna bet 7. And the solver actually likes checking here, 58% of the time. EV loss of betting is small, but the solver does that here 99.2% of the time. I think we're continuing betting here, and we're gonna shove. I think so. Yep. And the villain calls with 4 of a kind, so unfortunately we lose, but we can see that this was a fine line all over the place. Queen jack off on a 7 jack 8, we're betting 2. Well, actually the solver likes checking here 80% of the time on a board like that. Okay, and there's another 8 on the turn. I think we're gonna check here, as we should. And there's a queen on the river, and the villain leads for a donk bet. Do we raise it here or do we just call? I think it's usually a check, but sometimes raise. I'm just gonna check. I'm just gonna call. Yeah, it should actually be mostly a raise, 91% of the time, and just 8% of the time it should be a check. It should be a call. So, yeah, this is a clear raise spot, and checking should just be occasional. Pocket 10s on 4 queen jack. We're gonna bet 2. Checking would be the preferred play 92% of the time. Betting 2 is fine EV-wise, but just 8% of the strategy. Ace 3 of clubs on a jack queen. I think we're betting 2. Yeah, the villain folds. 9-10 of hearts on a 6 deuce queen with 2 hearts. I think we're betting 2 here. We are. Villain calls. A 3 of spades on the turn. I think we're gonna check now, as we should. And there's an 8 of spades on the river. I think we're gonna overbet the pot now. And actually the solver prefers betting half pot here, 55% of the time. Overbet is fine EV-wise, pretty much the same, but the solver plays it here 21% of the time. Okay. Pocket 9s on an 8-6-4, we're betting 2. The solver agrees. The villain calls, and now the villain leads for a third of the pot bet. I think we're just gonna call here, as we should, 84% of the time. And now on the queen of diamonds on the river, the villain once again leads for a quarter of the pot bet this time. And are we just calling this, or should we raise? I think there's no point in raising, but I might be wrong. Nope. We should just be calling this 94% of the time. And unfortunately the villain has a straight, so we lose. King Jack of diamonds on an Ace-7 Jack. We're betting 2 here, or betting 5. The villain folds. King Queen on a 10 Jack 9. The villain checks. I think we're gonna bet 2 here. Okay. Surprisingly, the solver likes betting 5 here on our dream flop. Okay. 3 of spades on the turn. Does that mean now that we should overbet the pot, or should we just bet 3/4? I think betting 3/4 is better. Yes, it is. The solver plays here a 3/4 bet 88% of the time, but the villain folds. Pocket deuces on Jack 5 Ace. I think we're gonna bet 5 here. It is a bet 5. We get called. Another 5 on the turn. I think we're gonna check here, or should we bet again? I think I'm just giving up on this hand at this point. Yeah, solver agrees 97% of the time. And now the villain leads for a 1/4 pot bet. Do we call here with pocket deuces, or do we fold? I think we can call. I think we should call here. A 1/4 pot bet. And the villain and the solver actually folds here 38% of the time. Calls 37% of the time. So it has some raises as well. And it makes sense because the villain shows up with a jack, so he would have probably folded to a raise. But as we can see, the raising is a rare part of the strategy. I mean, maybe not so rare, 20-something%. Okay. Ace-4 of hearts on a Jack 9 King. And the villain leads for 5 BBs. I think we just fold. Yep. Pocket 5s on King 8 Jack. Is this a bet 5 or a bet 2? I think bet 2. It's actually a check, 72% of the time. 10% of the time that the solver bets a third pot bet. Ivilos is pretty much similar. 6 of diamonds on the turn, and I think we check here. I can imagine it's a bet, and the solver agrees. And now on the deuce of spades on the river, the villain leads for a 1/4 pot bet. I think we have to raise here. We cannot probably win, so I'm gonna try and raise. And actually the solver calls here 96% of the time, and raises just under 3%. Ivilos is small, but it's probably a bad spot for raising with pocket 5s. And we can see we get called by Jack 3 of hearts. Ace Queen off on an Ace-4 5 with 2 clubs. I think maybe that's a bet 5. It is. Villain folds. 8-7 of spades on a 6 Jack 3. We're gonna bet 2. Yeah. The villain raises to 8.5, and I think we just fold our 8-7 here. Yep. 8-7 suited again on a 7 deuce king. We're betting 2. Villain folds. 8-9 suited this time on a 6 ace-5. I think we bet 2 here again. Villain calls. King of diamonds on the turn. I think we continue betting here because of the king of diamonds coming. And the solver actually checks here half of the time and bets 3/4 pot bet 40% of the time, so it is fine strategy. King queen off on a 9 ace-10. This is a bet 2 or a bet 5. We get called. Deuce of hearts on the turn. We're gonna check. And solver actually again likes to continue betting here. 3/4 pot bet, 3/4 of the time. Checking is fine, of course, if you guys 15% of the strategy. But I'm just trying to wrap my head around betting here so often on the blank on the turn with our hand. Yeah, I need to memorize a spot like this. Now the villain leads for a 1/4 pot bet. I think we just call here, as we should, and the villain actually has an ace, so we lose. Queen jack suited on an 8 ace, on an 8-10 3 with 2 diamonds. I think we bet 5 here. Yeah, villain folds. Pocket sevens on an ace ace-6. We're betting 2. Yep, villain folds. Pocket aces on a 5-9-6. I think we're betting 5 again. Checking is the preferred play 44% of the time. Betting 5 is 12% of the strategy, so betting 2 is something like 50%. We get raised, surprisingly, to 15 BBs. I think we're gonna call that. Yeah, we hit our ace on the river on the turn, and we're obviously calling the shove, hoping he doesn't have 7-8. But let's see. Nope. He just had ace-10, so that's cool. And we've played our 25 hands for the day. I think this was a pretty good session, so let's see the numbers. Wow, this was an excellent session, really. Our overall EV loss is just 4 BBs so per 100 hands, so that's awesome. You can see our frequencies were a bit high on the betting or raising, and yeah, we didn't check or call enough or fold enough compared to the GTO. But yeah, this was a really great session. I mean, the biggest EV loss that we had, that was what, -24? Wow, -0.24 was the biggest EV loss that we had. Nice. This was, I think, the best session that I've played so far on the GTO trainer. So thank you for being here with me. If you stayed this long, please leave a comment. Just write GTO or ask any question you might have. Subscribe if you're not already. Leave a thumbs up. Check out the description of this video for links to the playlist with the previous spots that we've done, and also to this GTO trainer. You can also check out some of my other videos about poker in general. Yeah. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.